Dude, Terry, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this, man. This is so
Sure,
awesome.
sure, no problem.
All
It's
right.
interesting, that I did this album so many years ago, and nobody knew that I had done anything on it. And it was a fun project, but it was a wild ride, to say the least.
Yeah, like I had no idea because I had the Prince of Darkness like set and you're not
No,
credited. But
no, they didn't give me credit for 30 years.
um but on one, the deluxe one you got credit. Like I think even on the Prince of Darkness one, Geezer has a credit on the Welcome Home.
Right?
Then I think it says it's Geezer, but on the other ones there it doesn't say anyone played bass.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. They've got the tracking list wrong as well. Anyway, even on the credit they gave me credit for songs that I kind of remember, but I don't remember playing on them. The main songs that I played on originally, which we was "Mama, I'm Coming Home," the first time it was recorded, which you've heard. Um, "Same Old Desire," which turned into "Desire." I did some rearrangement of that song, and "I Don't Want to Change the World." Then "Hellraiser," that's me on that. It's not Bob Daisley. And "Zombie Stomp" are the ones that I remember the most. And we did all of those with the first producer, who sometimes gets credit, sometimes doesn't, Tom Fletcher.
Right on. So tell me the story. How did you end up playing bass for Ozzy, man? What's the story?
I've been doing a bunch of studio work here and there, sort of ghosting stuff for some bands that I won't mention right now that I came in and played bass on. I was playing with Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols. Jonesy and I had been playing together for quite a few years, and he was one of my best friends. Um, so I had done his albums um, or our album rather, because he and I and Nikki Sixx wrote a couple of songs for the album. Shit. Can I say shit? Oh well.
Yeah, yeah. You can swear for sure, man.
I don't even know. So um, Randy Castillo was a really, really good friend of mine as well. So I was walking into a club one night. I was taking my 12-year-old daughter out on the town and was walking into one of the rock and roll clubs we used to go to. And Randy was coming out, and Randy and I and Phil Suzanne, I don't know if you know Phil. Phil,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I met him. I know. Yeah, yeah. He's great.
oh, Phil, I'm the president of the Phil Suzanne uh, fan club. I love Phil. Phil's just one of the classiest, coolest, greatest guys I've ever met. I absolutely love him. Anyway, Phil and I and Randy and a couple other guys we all had motorcycles, and we all kind of rode around and did stuff. And I had taken my daughter out to this club, and we were walking into the club, and Randy was walking out, and he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, man, you want to come and play with us tomorrow?" And I said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "You want to come and play with us?" And I said, "Sure. Who's us?" And she said me and Ozzy and Zach. And I just kind of went, "Really? Sure." So they gave me the address, and I showed up, to do uh, whatever it was. Because when I got there, I'd found out that Geezer and Ozzy had had a falling out about something. I don't know what it was. So I showed up. Can't remember whether I brought my own bass or whether they supplied something. I can't remember which. I think Randy took my bass because only had a motorcycle at the time. So I showed up and we started playing, but it was kind of odd. I didn't think it was going to last very long, and I didn't last as long as I should have, but for various reasons I'll explain later. Uh, so when we got in there, I got set up, and I had to use Geezer Butler's Mesa Boogie setup, which had like two 415s cabinets with a Mesa Boogie head, and it's not what I use. I always used like two SVTs with um, Gallon Kruger 800 RB. setup. So actually with Jonesy, I used 4 SVT cabinets and 2 800 RPs because we had 3 guitar players that were just impossible to compete with. But so Ozzy says, well, let's warm up. Do you know any Black Sabbath songs? And I was like, oh, shit. I'm in big trouble because I never listened to Black Sabbath. Ozzy and I aren't that far away age-wise. I think Ozzy had like 3 years on me. So when they were doing what they were doing, I was listening to, well, I was in San Francisco at the time when they came out. So I was listening to mostly the local bands there, Jefferson Airplane, Sons of Champlin, Tower of Power, those type of bands. And I had been playing with, there was a guy named Sylvester who ended up doing a bunch of disco hits later on, but when he was early on, he was one of the neighborhood guys, and he used to do this drag queen review of Billie Holiday, and his backup singers were these girls that I knew that I absolutely loved called the Pointer Sisters. So I got talked into doing a few gigs with him. I probably did 2 or 3, mostly out of they were just stuck. They didn't have anybody to play with. And it wasn't anything I intended to stay with. And then I ended up playing with one of the guys that was the most recorded jazz artist on Blue Note Records named Bobby Hutcherson. And Bobby was a jazz vibes player. And this was back in days when some of us had drug problems. And Bobby and I used to ride the same bus to a particular clinic down in the Western Addition, out in the Fillmore District. And we started talking, and I couldn't figure out why when we went into the clinic, everybody really treated him like, hey, Bobby, and I'm going, who's this guy? And they told me. So I said, so you play music? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. He goes, do you? I go, yeah. He goes, what do you play? I said, I play bass. He said, invited me down to a clinic thing he was doing at the Both And Jazz Club that afternoon. And he was explaining some Eric Satie stuff that didn't have any bar structure on it. It had music was written, but there weren't any specific bar changes. So it was open to interpretation. And he ended up inviting me down to jam with him. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll try. And we talked about what we were listening to. And I was listening to Miles Davis's Jack Johnson album stuff with Michael Henderson and those, John McLaughlin. I think that was John McLaughlin's first outing with Miles. And so I showed up with, he had a great jazz drummer named Eddie Marshall and a great horn player named Julian Priester. And I was fucking out of my league. It was insane. And so we start playing, and I'm used to playing like a rock player. So I always play with the drummer. Well, jazz, that's not it. The bass player is the anchor. So we start playing, like we get about 30 seconds into the song, and this jam, and I stop playing, and Bobby goes, what's wrong? I go, I can't keep up with what's going on with the drummer. He said, no. He goes, this is jazz. He goes, don't pay attention to what we're doing. You establish the groove. You keep that groove going. He goes, no matter what we do, don't worry about it. Keep the groove steady. We'll get back to you. And I walked out of that thing a couple hours later, feeling like just garbage. And I thought, well, that'd be the last time I see these guys. And about a week later, Bobby said, we've got a gig. And I look at him and I go, what do you mean we? He goes, got a gig. I go, I need a bass player. I need you to show up at this thing. And I just kind of went, I don't know any songs. He goes, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And that was part of the cool jazz, free jazz movement. And I did 3 gigs with him, and then he moved. I think he left the country for a while. And so my career has been completely backwards. I should have ended up playing with the great jazz guys, and I started out playing with the jazz guys, and it just kind of went, in a different direction. So that's a long way of getting to the point where Ozzy said, okay, let's do some Black Sabbath. And I had to say, listen, I go, I never listened to Black Sabbath. To tell you the truth, I actually didn't really like the band that much. I was listening to Miles Davis, and I thought that was the end. And he started laughing. He goes, "Okay." So Randy Castillo says, "Let's do Summertime Blues by Blue Cheer." So we laid into that and just cooked. It was great. And Ozzy started showing me a couple of songs, and he says, "We're having problems with some arrangements." And I listened to him. We went through them, and I said, "How about if we cut this part out here? We just go, instead of having this section, let's just move this and do this." And we ended up doing 3 songs the first day that ended up being the arrangements that you've heard on the album now. Uh, and the guys took a break, and I went in, and I hated, because I always use SVTs. I hated Geezer Butler's rig, the way it sounded, because I have a different, more punchy. I like to be able to have more articulation in what I do and more control of the duration of the notes. So I was screwing around with this stuff, and I was playing with one hand while doing stuff going, and Randy came running in and just started going, right? And we're sitting there kind of jamming on it, and Ozzy and Zach come in, and Zach walks up and picks up his guitar and goes, you know, and Ozzy started he turned on his little, he had a tape recorder around his neck. He just turned it on, and he walks over and he goes, "Hellraiser," right? And we went through this thing, and what you hear is what we did spontaneously originally. And so Ozzy goes, "Yeah, we should write a song like that." And Zach said, "We just did." And pretty shortly after that, Lemmy, who was a good friend of mine, Lemmy and I had written a bunch of stuff together, and I had helped him with his collection of Third Reich knives and stuff like that, because when I was a kid, I used to collect German uniforms and stuff when I was really young. And it was just started. Funny thing is that the next day, Sharon sent this guy over to pick up my equipment to move it into, because we were rehearsing at Joe's Garage originally, which was Zappa's place. And the guy shows up, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Mark Candelario." And I said, "Terry Nelson." "Mark Candelario." I go, "That's funny." I go, "I haven't heard that last name in years." I said, "I had a really good friend of mine named Billy Candelario. They call him Billy Kid, that worked for the Grateful Dead when we lived up at a ranch up in Northern California in Olympia, because I lived on one of the Grateful Dead ranches when I was a teenager." And he goes, "It's my brother." What? And Billy and I were the last ones to leave Olympia. They were part of the Grateful Dead milieu, I guess. So it's interesting to see how things got tied circular, back around. So any other really overstated long answers I can give you?
Well, so the Hellraiser, right? What do you think of the Motorhead version? You ever hear the Motorhead version of Hellraiser?
Oh yeah, I was so proud when they did that, because Lemmy was one of my dearest friends, and he and I used to play the trivia machine at the Rainbow all the time together. And I used to go over to his house. I've been sober for years. So, Lemmy and I hung out, and we used to go, and we wrote a song called "It's Good to Be the King" that I don't have any recollection of what the hell happened to it. But he and I wrote it together. And I was over at his house after the Rainbow one night, and he picks up this bass, I think a bass or a guitar, and he starts going, "Blue blood lover, never find another." And I'm sitting there, and I had one of those moments. I'm going, there are probably several million people that would give their left arm to be sitting next to Lemmy on a couch at 2 a.m. with him singing songs to them. It was hilarious. But yeah.
All right. Was there any talks about maybe you getting kind of like a permanent gig with Ozzy, or?
Yeah, that was the idea. The idea was is that I had been brought in as a band member, and I had talked with Sharon, and we had gone through all this stuff. And you kind of have to understand the nature of what was going on. I was still Jonesy and I still were doing what we were doing, but they needed a bass player. Everything was working out really well. And first time I met Ozzy was at an AA meeting. And Jonesy and I have been sober for a long time. I've been sober 43 years now, 44 years, something like that. And so when I showed up in the situation, Ozzy was sober. And uh, the guys that weren't, they never drank, and there was nothing around Ozzy, nothing like that. And so we did the rehearsals, we worked up the stuff we were going to do, and we went into the studio. And the things that they're calling the demos aren't the demos. They were the original versions of the songs on the album. And I think that, well, definitely Desire and I Don't Want to Change the World, all that stuff was far better than what ended up was going on. And then I realized that on Mama, I'm Coming Home, because I never listened to the album at all. I've still never sat down and listened to the entire album. I don't have any albums that I've played on. So that's just kind of a quirk that I've got because I never liked what I always think I can do it better. So I just spaced out. Sorry, man. On a tangent. What was the question?
Oh, it was well, you were talking about the
Why I didn't stay with Ozzy. So
yeah.
I think Randy and I were out one night, and I think we went over to, we used to call Randy the Rainbow, Randy Castillo. And we were out at the Rainbow, and somebody said, "Man, Ozzy was there last night. He got so fucked up that he like peed on somebody's table or something." So I went, interesting. And all of a sudden, the camp went silent, totally silent. I didn't hear anything from anybody. They kept me on retainer. They kept paying me, but they never called me for rehearsals. They never called me for anything. We were in the middle of recording an album. I just didn't hear from them again. And I found out later on, and I know this to be true, is that Ozzy was so. When anybody has a problem with drugs and alcohol, and they're sober, and they hang out with other sober people, and when they fall off the wagon, they don't want to see those people anymore because it reminds them of how they weren't able to do what they wanted to do. And so that was kind of the end of it for me. Though I did end up running a few rescue missions for Sharon at different times. She called me one night and said, "Terry, Ozzy's at the cat house." She called me at about 3 in the morning, and he refuses to leave unless you go get him. And I'm going, "I only got a motorcycle." She says, "That's okay. Tony's there. Tony Dennis, who was his driver, is waiting for him out front. You just need to go get him." And I went. So I got on my bike and rode down to the cat house. Ozzy was sitting up in the VIP area all by himself. There's nobody except the security people and a couple other people. They just couldn't get him to move. And he had his head down, and he was like. And I walked up in front of him, and I looked at him. He looked at me, and he just goes and gives me a big hug. And then I just grab him by the arm and go, "Let's go." So we start walking out of the club. The guy tries to help him, and he just goes, elbows the shit out of the guy. And I get him downstairs, and so I follow him over to the house that they're staying at, and we have a long talk, and he's just devastated. He's just so unhappy that he can't quit drinking. And there were other little things like that that happened after that, but we stayed really good friends. Um, and that's kind of basically the story of that album. So what you hear on Hellraiser on the album and the one with Lemmy singing on it as well, that Ozzy and him, that's me playing.
All
And
right, huh?
what you hear on Zombie Stomp, that's me playing. And then you've heard the other albums. So that was it.
Hmm. Well, I definitely like the versions you played on, like the I guess the demo, those ones, but and a lot of people like those ones more than the ones that like ended up like on the album,
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah, because they had a lot more balls, I guess you'd say. Because we had Randy and I and Zach clicked really well on that stuff. And I think the stuff that Daisley did was great, but Daisley had a lot of history with Ozzy and it wasn't the best. So there were some issues a couple of times where uh, on like I Don't Want to Change the World, Zach's playing is so brilliant, but Ozzy thought it sounded too much like Leonard Skinner, right? And go listen to that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And his playing is just probably my favorite lead ever on any song that I've ever played on. And I played with, a lot of people, a lot of great players. I was in a band with, in fact, I had a band with Randy at the same time with a young kid named John Lowry, who's now called John Five. That was our side project with a singer from a band called the Four Horsemen, named Frankie Starr. So Ozzy, you know, came up to me after the recording. He goes,
oh.
"Terry, would you mind telling Zach not to play that country music on my album?" And I just kind of went, "Man, that was what are you talking about?" You know. And then of course, Zach had his little side project, Leonard Skinhead, for a while with James Lomenzo from White Lion, and James is a really good friend of mine. I did some work with White Lion, mostly background vocal stuff and just hanging out with the guys. But when Michael Wagoner was producing him, so that was that stuff. It was all, but it was all that was all. Almost every single one of those songs. I don't think we did more than 2 takes at the most, and it was all analog. So there's no Pro Tools trickery. There's no quantizing drums. That's us playing live in the studio. Literally everything that you hear there. I mean, there are a couple overdubs here and there on stuff for guitar stuff because they had to, but basically everything you hear Randy and I did, period, all the way through. I don't believe there were any punch-ins at all on any of those songs. There might have been one because of arrangements on Hellraiser, but I can't think of anything else. That's why I think that translates.
Yeah, man. No, I love it, man. Uh, Also, you brought up John Five, man, and it was actually his birthday the other day.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Uh, you just mentioned him, so I was like, "Oh, dude, it was his birthday the other day." He's a Michigan guy. We're both from Michigan,
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah, yeah. In fact, I think his ex-girlfriend at the time is like chief CEO for one of the big booking agencies now. So I knew them both when they were like teenagers when they first came out from LA, to LA. Because I'd had a band originally with, let me see, Craig Goldie from Dio.
dude,
Uh,
I love Craig, man.
and
Craig's
Craig, one of the
great.
greatest guys ever, great guitar player. Craig Goldie, a drummer named Mark Bistany, who was in, I think he played with Chris Belletary, and he was in OTEP and Head PE, and he was a studio cat, just over the top drummer. Myself and uh, Frankie Starr. and Frankie and I put the band together after I think it was their bass player died in the Four Horsemen, so we were kind of out, so to speak, not doing much. I think he did it, I was going through a really bad relationship. And then Craig couldn't do it anymore, so um, Zach hooked me up with a really great guitar player from New Jersey called Carl Cochran. And Carl just passed away, I think, last year. Carl was one of Zach's really good friends. They both had the same guitar teacher named David DiPietro that was in a band called Nuclear Assault. So we got him out there. And Mark, our drummer, had a project with a band called Cellophane that had, I don't know, it lasted very long, but they had a record deal. So he walked out, and Randy and I were working with Ozzy at the time, and I said, "Want to come and do this?" And he said, "Sure." And Carl and our singer started butting heads, both being New York, New Jersey, Italian, with Irish crazy guys. And Carl decided to leave, and Randy said, "I found this really good kid. He just got in town. Let's try and give him a try." And it was John Lowry. So we stayed with that for a while. It went in a direction that I wasn't. It was great, but it was really odd. And I ended up getting fired from the band that I started. And I just kind of went, it was one of those meetings as well. We got to tell you, it's not working out. And I just went, I started laughing. I said, "Thank God." I go, "I didn't want to leave you guys in the lurch, but man, this isn't happening at all for me." And so Frankie and I left, and then Frankie quit. And then it turned into, I think, Red Square One or something. I don't know what it was, for a little bit, and then it was done.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Now I'm playing with Ainsley Dunbar. I don't know if you know who Ainsley is.
I don't think so. I don't think
Look him
so.
up. He played with he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was started off with a band called the Mojo Men, and then was with John Mayall. Then he was the first drummer in Jeff Beck group. Then he had Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation, and then he was in the Mothers of Invention, and he was in I played with David Bowie. He did Pinups and Diamond Dogs with him, and then he was in all kinds of stuff. This is just a quick overlay. He played drums on all of the big hits of Whitesnake, and he was the original drummer in Journey.
All right, on.
And he's brilliant, brilliant player. And so he and I and a guy named Mike Varney, who's used to own and was president of Shrapnel Records. He produced a bunch of the Michael Schenker albums, all kinds of stuff. And a guy named Sean Williamson, who was the last lead singer in the original Atlanta Rhythm section, and a really great guitar player from Danny Coker's band, Count 77 band, Stoney Curtis, great blues player, great lead and rhythm player. Got this project with probably the best keyboard player I've ever worked with, named Matt Green. We're all out of Vegas right now, so.
Oh, dude, right on, man, dude. Oh man, Jeff Beck, man, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah. Ainsley and Hendrix are really good friends too. And the story is that Ainsley didn't get the gig with Hendrix because of a toss of the coin, and that's not true at all. The truth of the matter is that Hendrix's management company was so cheap they didn't want to pay him that much. So those guys only got paid £20 a week, whether they were on tour or not. And Ainsley had 4 bands before, had been making when he first started was making £30 a week with John Mayall. So and he was married, so it was like he had to turn the gig down.
All right, on, right on. Cause like the Jeff Beck, I was just thinking, cause Ozzy had the tribute concert, right?
Uh-huh.
And Ronnie Wood played
Yeah,
from the Stones, and I was trying to, and which is awesome, but I was trying to think of a connection, and he played for Jeff Beck, and then Jeff Beck was on Ozzy's last solo album, so I was kind of like, I
yeah.
guess,
Well, and Ainsley wrote the song "The Warning"
oh, right on.
that Black Sabbath did on their first album. So they were, Ainsley and Ozzy were really good friends. Um, and Ozzy being a little bit younger than I think, or about the same age as Ainsley. So yeah, there's a lot of that. You know, once you get to a particular level of playing, it's really everybody kind of knows everybody. That from back then.
Dude, right on. And I gotta ask, do you have any Randy stories, Randy Castillo stories?
You know, we hung out so much, and Randy was just one of the most straightforward, no bullshit guys ever. Just solid, solid, solid. Um, we did some weird gigs together. We did a benefit concert for AIM, American Indian Movement, at one point um, at the whiskey years and years ago. Um, we just basically hung out. I don't know how to explain it. It's like he never had outrageous, really, really outrageous behavior at all. He was totally solid. We rode bikes together all the time. We hung out all the time. I was sober. Uh, I don't think I ever saw him drunk more than twice, and he was well behaved when that happened. So I don't really have anything outrageous. There's just Ozzy was. We went into took a break when we were over at Joe's garage, and he said, "Let's go over to, I forget what it was called. There was a there was like a pasties bar over near where we were, out in the valley." And Ozzy says, "Let's go there." Let's go. So I'm going, and it's like in the middle of the day, so we go over there, and I go up and I order like an O'Doul's or something, and I think Randy and Zach get a beer or something. And Ozzy disappears into the back. Goes out and go to the bathroom, and he's gone for a few minutes, and then he comes back, and he's just like looking sheepish, and he's kind of shuffling along, and he goes, "Let's go, we gotta go." I go, "Just got here." He goes, "Let's go." Okay, go. And I'm looking at him going, there's this smell that starts coming out. And I just go, I looked at Ozzy and shit my head and said, "Come on, guys, let's get out of here now." Ozzy had gone back into the girls' restroom and let us one of those German stink bombs off. Cleared that club out in about fucking 4 minutes. Everybody was out on the sidewalk. That was Ozzy.
Oh man. Well, dude, this has been awesome, man. I don't want to take too much of your time, man, but thank you so much for doing this, man. This is so cool. I remember hearing like the like the songs on like the Prince of Darkness box set and
Mhm.
absolutely loving them, and like listening to them on that deluxe and finding out that you played bass, and I was like, oh, like what? And then looking it up, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like I gotta find this guy. I gotta find this guy who played bass on this, man.
Well,
And
I was sort of upset that they didn't give me some credit or mention or anything on the album at first, but I was talking to a producer friend of mine that was worked with Garth Richards and Bob Rock and those guys, and they said, "Doesn't make any difference." He goes, "Everybody in the business knows you played the bass on that stuff." He goes, "So, because all I wanted was just more work, because I did a lot of studio work over at for Planet Records. I did a lot of ghosting stuff, a lot of like R&B type of stuff, uh, and I just wanted more work. So, uh, and they just said everybody that matters knows. So I went, okay, I'm fine, and it did. I got enough work for a while, and yeah, just another gig, really.
Well, I don't know. It's to like the Ozzy fans, like those versions of the songs, man. Like we just love them. Like when you go on like YouTube, like they got a posted, and all the comments are like, "Oh, like this is so much better." Like everybody loves.
I haven't looked at any of it. I don't want to, maybe my head will start, as at this late stage of life.
Especially Desire. A lot of people like
Yeah,
that
way
original.
better,
Yeah.
way better, so
Yeah.
much better. And that was all. And the guy that's laughing in it, you hear the yeah, all right, son. That's Tony Dennis. And
Oh.
Tony Dennis was this little Geordie, Northern England cat that was Ozzy's assistant and Ozzy's driver. And great guy. I have no idea what happened because when that camp was done with people, they were just all of a sudden you just didn't hear. I have no idea what happened to Mark Candelario. And he was totally competent, great road guy, great equipment guy. I have no idea what happened to Tony. I love the guy. It was great to hang out with. And of course, me, I was like, there's, stuff. There were, they operated in a way that they thought was best for their own, you know, in their own interests. They didn't pay me better than anybody else did. A lot of it was just under the table stuff, but they probably paid me better than 90% of all the stuff that I've done combined. So I had nothing to complain about, and it was fun. It was really fun. I love Ozzy. I love Sharon too. Sharon is. I understand Sharon because she's ruthless, and you don't cross her. But I love that about her. She's a pistol. She's not. She's a very awesome lady. I love her to death. And
Oh, and
I was
she's
around when the kids were like
oh.
little kids. Jack was
Yeah.
really young. Uh, Amy was the oldest, and Amy's the one most people don't even know anything about. Kelly was super young. They were sweet little kids.
Oh. Yeah, Sharon's hilarious, man. She's pretty funny, man.
Oh, she's brilliant. She is absolutely brilliant. I mean, she's so smart. She's so astute, and she has got a wicked sense of humor. And she's also got an incredible sense of revenge if you cross her. I really like that about her.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This really meant a lot, man, you know. So thank you. Thank you for doing this, man.
Sure.
And what's the band called? Like is it
Right now, it's just let's just say it's the one I'm playing with now.
yeah.
We actually have a name. It's either going to be Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation, or it will be Ainsley Dunbar and Friends, or it could be who knows. You know, could be whatever. We're just basically we get to get the I don't know if you ever watched the Count's Customs show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we rehearsed that. Danny's Danny supplies our rehearsal space for us. Never asks us for anything. He's one of the most amazingly, wonderfully kind human beings. I mean, you really can't believe it. I was going, yeah, this guy, look at him. I met him and I just went, you know, should I just kiss your hand now? He's just a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's great. His band's really good. You know, Zito and Jeff Totaro, great drummer, uh, great bass player. Stoney Curtis and Danny, just great. So yeah, that's where we rehearse at, and it's we're just there all the time. We can't.
Right on, man. Well, I'll definitely check them out, or whenever you guys get some stuff going, man, I'll definitely check it out, man.
All
I'm
right.
excited to hear it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Terry, man. This has been
Well, thank you
awesome,
for
dude.
having me on.
No problem, man. All right. Well,
All right.
I'll see ya.
Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.